Public comment portion for the purpose of commenting on any matter. Before I open up that, Councilman, you may want to sit for a second. I'm going to ask Freeholder Sullivan to read a statement relative to the budget and give an update of where we're at. So Freeholder Sullivan, will you please share those comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. After many weeks of a methodical review of departmental budgets by directors and constitutional officers, the county is in the process of closing a very significant budget deficit that was caused in part by reduced state funding and reimbursements. A few weeks ago, I spoke about the findings of the Efficiency Task Force report, which recognized the potential to save more than $850,000 through a series of cost-cutting measures to be implemented throughout the course of the fiscal year. Now, as we near the final 2 weeks before budget introduction, I am reporting some of the major measures we are implementing to close this deficit. First, we began by asking all departments to cut up to 5% off their 2011 adopted budget's operating and expense totals. Department heads have worked painstakingly over the past several weeks to come up with savings that will meet this directive. Next, after a series of discussions over time involving fiscal committee and departmental meetings relative to personnel and contract negotiations, this board has reached a consensus to reluctantly initiate program and workforce reductions. The following programs and services are affected. Music Fest and Rhythm and Blues by the Brook, as you may have read before, have been canceled for 2012. Kids Kingdom events have been canceled for 2012. Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Union County, Division of Consumer Affairs, Freeholder Scholars, Senior Scholars, and College for Teens have been cut back to their 2011 spending levels. Additionally, the Freeholder Board, County Manager, and Department Directors have all agreed to take a 3-day voluntary salary reduction equivalent to what 3 unions have already accepted, and those unions are the County Police Rank and File, the County Police Superior Officers, and Local 68 Engineers. As per the plan to reduce the workforce, this is a matter we have all agonized over the past few weeks and taken very seriously. During the past few years, we have exhausted our options in preventing layoffs, but unfortunately this year, given the significant budget deficit, there is no alternative. We filed our first plan with the state in February for 44 layoffs to be effective by May 1st. Yesterday, we filed a second round with the state for an additional 236 layoffs to be effective on June 1st. Throughout this period, we also eliminated a total of 72 vacancies. With all these measures included, workforce reductions, vacancy eliminations, program eliminations, and operating and expense cuts, our savings could be as much as $10 million. We fully recognize that this budget will affect the lives of those employees who may be laid off, as well as those who provide county services. These are real people who depend upon their jobs for their livelihood. While there are no words to express that can ease the pain for those employees who may be impacted, this board expresses its sympathy. Any affected employee may receive services through our one-stop counselors as it pertains to any employment assistance, job search, or retraining service they may desire. Furthermore, Civil Service will establish a special reemployment list for all affected county employees ranked by seniority. If the need arises to call them back to work at the county, Civil Service will ensure that they are called back. Finally, once all budgetary details and numbers are finalized, the county manager will release his executive budget on or about on April 5th, when the Freeholder Board will hold a special meeting for introduction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Freeholder Sullivan. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak?
No.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting and ask the county manager for some comments, and then I'll turn on to the freeholders for their comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask various department heads and individuals to comment on some of the points that were raised today. But with regard to my own personal legal issue, I just want to point out for the record that I paid for all attorney and legal fees out of my own pocket and at my own expense. I'd like to start with Frank Guzzo and Kathy Hatfield to address the issue of how many meetings we've had and discussions that we have had with various unions. I'd like to start with that point first, if I can. Kathy and Frank, if you would, Frank, you've been our lead team on our with regard to our negotiations.
Thanks, Mr. Manager, Chairman, freeholders. We started this process several months ago when we knew we were facing a fairly significant budget deficit. We met with the unions for the first time prior to the filing of the first layoff plan. First layoff plan was filed on February 15th. We met with the various unions as we're required to by law. At that point in time, we said to them, you know, this is most likely not going to be the end of our problems. We explained to them that we were going to try and get all of the unions together to try and come up with a solution that could avoid further layoffs. On February 22nd, we held a meeting at Union County College with all of the union presidents. We explained to them at that point where we were in terms of the budget deficit, and we actually gave them a proposal. We said, this is our proposal. If every single person in the county buys onto this proposal, we will close the budget deficit and we will not have to have any further layoffs. We got silence on that. In fact, some of the individuals who spoke tonight who said that there were no meetings between county representatives and unions were not being accurate in how they described the process. After that meeting, we reached out to all of the unions again to say, please come talk to us. There were some unions who did, there were some unions who didn't. The largest union in this county basically sat down with us and said, no, we're not doing anything. At that point, we were put into a position where we didn't have any buy-in on our proposals. Nobody came back to us other than county police rank and file, county police superiors, and local 68 who said, we want to help. And they came back and they made a counter proposal to us. And we said, thank you very much. We signed off on that proposal. But no other unions have came forward at that time. Given the deficit that we're still facing, we had no other choice but to come up with another plan. And that is the plan that we filed yesterday. Prior to that plan being filed, we did meet with all of the unions that were affected, who had members who were affected by the layoffs. Again, we encouraged further dialogue. At that point, some of the unions said, we want to keep this dialogue going. We set up negotiations. We have time. You know, there is still time. These layoffs don't go into effect until June 1st. So it's our hope that from now until the layoffs go into effect, that we will be able to sit down with people and negotiate so that we can try and come up with a mutually satisfactory solution. So that's been the process. Any questions?
Thanks, Kevin. With, I'd like Matthew Ryder to come up. One of the questions was about corrections, the number of positions that have been eliminated in corrections. Matt, do you have that information? If you don't, it's okay. It was one of the questions that was asked.
The 24 layoffs in corrections, 11 employees, and 13 elimination of vacancies. So 11 employees and 13 vacancies will be eliminated in corrections.
Thank you. Thank you. The point that was raised about the county clerk and the calendar and some of those things are things we're looking at very carefully with regard to our efficiency task force. And I apologize for the fact that happened. That shouldn't happen. And there are probably some other things that we need to do in terms of being more efficient. And we're going to be working on those things throughout the year, as the Freeholder Board has mentioned. One other point about incentives. I believe we looked at that. Director Taylor, if you would, could you address that issue, because that is something that we did take a look at.
You mean retirement?
Yeah, so, yeah, thank you.
The ERIP, as it's known, the Early Retirement Incentive Program, is one that has to be approved by the Division of Local Government Services as well as reviewed and approved by the Division of Pensions and Benefits. That process by statute takes approximately 6 months. The county is actively looking at it. We have a draft survey that we need to conduct. The carrot that was used during the last ERIP, unfortunately, was the lifetime health benefits. Since that time, we have offered it to the various unions who went without a salary increase in various years to provide that benefit. So now we're looking at some of the various options available, which unfortunately at this time is cash, annuities and the such. And we're looking at how to fund those various options. And at this point in time, one of the issues that we don't have is readily available cash. But with that being said, we still are looking at the options and various methods of funding it to see if there is a benefit, cost benefit to offering it versus the savings that we would get from proposal.
Thank you. Just one more point for me, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the question about exclusionaries and on various floors and where they're located. There are exclusionaries that are on this list. They have not been notified yet. So I don't think it's appropriate to give that information until they'll be notified tomorrow, and I think that they will be notified first.
Anything else now?
No, that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anyone else from the county team have any comments? Frank, do you have any comments or anything else? Or we're good? All right, fine. All right, we'll go to freeholder comments. I'll start with freeholder Kowalski.
Thank you, Chairman. I have some comments today.
Thank you, freeholder. Freeholder Campbell.
Your pass as well, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, freeholder Sullivan.
No, I said no.
Okay, thank you, freeholder. Freeholder Kudak. And freeholder Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I don't think that there's anyone here that should believe that we're not satisfied with the performance that you are giving us for years. As the employees that I look around this room that I see all the time, I recognize how difficult the situation is, but unfortunately we also have a responsibility to ensure that, number one, before we can actually put forward a budget, it has to be balanced. That's the requirement of law. And unfortunately, I truly don't believe that the different union groups were working hard enough to come forward and work something out. So we had no other option than to do that what we have to do. Like it was stated earlier, I believe that there is still time, possibly, that some things can be remedied, but again, it's not, we have a plan that we have to deliver on, and this is the plan. I want to thank all of you for coming. We appreciate your comments. I know how difficult it is, but we do appreciate our employees, and unfortunately, this is the reality of the world today. And hopefully, there is something to be resolved between now and June.
Thank you. And thank you, Fielder Wright.
Thank you. I too would like to thank you for coming this evening and sharing your concerns with us. We may not have answers at this point, but we are committed to the programs that we can have. So I'd like to thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any commentary? County manager, anything additional?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to also echo the fact that you're important to us. We do appreciate all that you do. We are facing very difficult decisions. We don't take them lightly, and we will continue to do everything we can to work collectively together to do the best for all of the residents of the county. So thank you.
I just have a couple of comments, and I do echo the comments of the freeholders who spoke and gave their thoughts about how much we value the work that's been done to this point. We are put in a very, very difficult financial position. We did everything we could over the years, over the last probably 5 years, to avoid this situation. It would have been very easy to have a steady stream of layoffs, and we did everything we could up to this point to avoid that. And I'm not sure that everyone knows that all the time, only when sometimes situations like this come up, is it really apparent and come out in the public. But, nobody on this field of board takes any kind of reduction in workforce lightly. It is clearly a last resort. And we have financial strain that we need to remedy. And as has been mentioned, there is an opportunity to continue to work together. I feel sorry if half the message gets out there, half the information gets out there, because I feel like sometimes information doesn't flow as freely down to every person, either affected or not affected. Because I know full well, and I see it where I work, that I feel bad for the people that have left where I work at Chubb. I feel bad for the people that have stayed, because there's a lot of people that are doing extra work, and working weekends, and working at night, and staying extra. We all are doing those things. So it's a hardship for, obviously, the folks that are going to be in a position to lose positions, but it's also a hardship for the people that are staying. So I get that, I understand that, I see it myself. Please know that we'll do everything we can to provide you with any training or job placement as best we can give for anybody that winds up being affected at the end of the day. We feel very, very closely tied to the list through civil service to rehire people as positions may come available in the future. That's exactly what we did roughly 10 years ago when we closed the old jail and we had a reduction of about 100 corrections officers. We worked very hard with that union and those individuals to try to find them jobs in other places, other jails, other areas where they can use their skills. We hired back people as positions came available, and that's what we're going to do here. So it's not that we're cutting the line and tossing everybody aside. It's farthest from the truth. It's a very, very difficult situation, and I feel for the people that are being affected directly and indirectly. But we weren't faced with any other options. We cut as much of the programming as we could. We cut as much back in different areas across the county so that we would not, in our minds, try to affect any kind of services to the residents that require them. And I'm hearing information tonight that maybe we've gone too deep in some areas. That could be the case. But we're trying to do our best to across the county, provide the services that are essential to the people who need them at the cost that we can absorb in this budget. So that's my comments. We'll continue to work together as best we can. I hope your leadership of your unions are talking with all of you, and if they haven't done it to this point, I hope they do it moving forward. And hopefully we can avoid make some concessions or some work together to avoid the full loss of employees. I do have one other comment aside from this budget situation. I do feel that other county business is at hand, and it is about the Union County Means Business session that's going to be happening on April 4th at a fair on Route 22. And I hope for not necessarily folks that are here, but for people that might see this on TV if they have an interest in that business session to come forward and participate. So I want to thank the folks who have come out tonight. I'm sure we've all heard from different people the word to us as far as how it feels for them and the impact it makes. And hopefully we'll be able to move forward with less layoffs than we anticipate. I don't know how that will be. But I appreciate your comments, and I have full respect for you, the work you do, and I appreciate the respect you've shown tonight. It would have been very easy to be very upset, as I know you are and should be. So I appreciate that as the chairman of this field of board, the manner with which the comments were given. I hope you've seen that they were received with respect and honesty. But when your back's to the wall, you have to make tough decisions, and this is the toughest I've seen in 15 years being people. So thank you all, and hopefully more to follow. Right? With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor?